because there's plenty of money out there if you know where to find it. And I know this is true because a friend of mine is a medical student, and he told me that medical schools need volunteers because apparently you can't become a doctor unless you practiced on real people. And he told me that rectal exam volunteers get $110 per exam. It takes 3 minutes. That is good money. Like if you did an 8-hour day, you would earn $16,000. If you did a 5-day week, that's 80 grand. I would do that. Who wouldn't? Imagine you get your mortgage is due, you got a power bill, you're trying to afford bananas, you think, what am I going to do? You could work 1 week as a rectal exam volunteer, you could earn 80 grand, you could have 51 weeks off. You would need them to recover. What you do on your holidays is your own business, isn't it? As long as you didn't have to ride a push bike home from work.
Well, in the States, it's like, it's different than here. There's no festivals. There's not a festival system. There's sort of like a festival system in here in the UK, where kids prepare whole hours, which I don't fucking know how they do that. You know, these guys have been doing stand-up 3 years and they're expected to do an hour. In the States, you work up 5-10 minutes and then you get to open for somebody, and then you go around not making money, opening for people, and doing your 10 shitty minutes. But it's all about like getting to jokes and getting funny really quickly. Like you be in 10 minutes and you got to warm the crowd up and you got to be fucking funny here. Like we don't need your point of view, just make people laugh. And then you roll that out until you become a feature act and you do 20 to 30.
So I was doing 10 minutes, the last two festivals, 10-minute spots, which is not really stressful, or, you know, you just do your best 10 at the time, but doing 50 minutes is, it's hard to explain how different it is from doing a 10-minute spot to 50. It's just a whole new world. I had a little dilemma recently. I had to call the Poison Information Hotline. Now, I don't know if anybody here's had to call the Poison Information Hotline before, but I had a pretty serious matter and I needed a quick answer. Now, it was an emergency, and to say the lady was unhelpful would be an understatement. I asked her a very simple poison information question, couldn't answer it. All I asked her was in what year Unskinny Bop was released, and she had no idea. She said, "Sir, I don't think you understand what sort of poison information." I was like, I don't think you understand, lady. You're going to work for a poison information hotline. You need to know basic poison information.
Enough people told me that I was funny, so I started to believe it enough to do comedy. And I wasn't funny at the start, but I found out I had to be funny in a different way to do comedy, and it took at least a couple of years to become consistently okay on stage. And I just say okay because I still think the first few years I was pretty average, you know.
I was heavily involved with the Monash Law Review, which Monash and Melbourne Law Review still to this day has produced a lot of local talent.
So it's sort of like this progression that by the time you become a headliner, you've been around for 10 years before you go somewhere and do an hour paid, and not even that well.
Celia Piccola, Sammy J were both in the Melbourne Law Review. Myself in the Monash Review, and heaps of people, if we went back and looked at who was in those two shows and the shows that I was in those few years, heaps of those people are now doing comedy festival shows. Some of them really big, obviously, like Celia, Sammy J.
So then you get invited to a festival and you see these posters and people are calling their show like this, the something journey, and you're like, oh fuck, so I can't just tell my jokes where I open with the banana thing and I end with the Tim Tam thing? No?
I reckon don't do a solo show for a couple of years at least. Just sort of get a good 50 minutes together, because it takes time to get. It takes 6 months to get a good 10, so that you're really happy with. So it's like 3.5 years. This show at 50 minutes is my best material from 3.5 years.
For people doing anything character based, even people as far as honing their writing skills, It's a safe environment that is akin to doing open mic.
Okay. Some people is laughing. Please, give me the nose. Give me the nose. It's okay. It's okay. You do laugh, but we go again. It's okay. We go again. Reverend! Some people fill in the back with a ha-ha. Very funny ha-ha, man. Give me the nose. We can do this all night, ha-ha, man. Yeah, very funny. We stay here all night, okay? We go again. We go ahead. Yeah, do the ha-ha now. But when I come out, you fucking shut up, okay? Come on.
You know, oh, Yumi Steins, he's going to dive to the bottom of the pool and pick up his brain. Well, fuck, who gives a shit? Really? Is it worth it? If you want to get outraged about the Royal Children's Hospital regularly treating girls younger than 10 for eating disorders. 8-year-old girls are getting treated in the Royal Children's Hospital for eating disorders. That is a symptom of a sick society. What the fuck are we doing? My little girl's nearly 4 years old. That means she's halfway to an eating disorder.
There are so few full-time comedians who don't have other jobs that are just comics, because you know you've got to get the good gigs, you've got to get the better money, the better paid gigs, and if you can get a few of those, then that's the difference.
That's crazy shit. Like, girls shouldn't be getting eating disorders till they're at least 14 or 15. 8 years old is too young. 8-year-old girls shouldn't be worried about how they look or whether or not they're too fat. They should be worried about skipping rope, playing dress-ups, maybe a bit of doctors and nurses. That's it, right? 8-year-old girls should not be worried about trying to find a quiet place to throw up their little lunch.
Yeah, so I do a couple of days a week freelancing work, copywriting, just all different sorts. I do a bit of real estate copywriting, and I do like some websites and things like that. And then when that drops off, I read electricity meters.
And like my little girl, nearly 4 years old, she called me into the bathroom the other day. She goes, "Dad, I need you in here." And you don't want to hear that when you've got a kid who's nearly 4 years old, right? Because usually it means they've had a bad wiping incident and there is shit everywhere. And you have to go in and clean that shit up, right? So I walk in expecting the worst. It was worse than that, right? Because she looks up at me, she's standing on the bathroom scales, and she looks at me and she goes, "Dad, am I the right kilos?"
Although every year it's sort of I've made more money each year off comedy, I still need a job. I'm working part-time before the festival, but after the festival finishes, I'll go back to full-time work.
Well, no one ever tells anyone, you know what? You, perfect just the way you are, okay? Don't change. No one ever says that. Everywhere you look, you see people telling you, you've got to be changed. You've got to go better. You can look better. You can be fucking all these crazy shit. If you look at a row of magazines, it's all perfect, airbrushed celebrities with beautiful white teeth, how to get his butt, how to get her abs, how to get her arms, how to be better. If you look over here, there's a fast food joint on every city block. If you watch a bit of television, there's MasterChef telling you, eat butter, eat sugar, enjoy your food. There's the biggest loser over here going, you're too fat, lose weight, be ashamed of yourself. No one's going to love you unless you're skinny.
There's a guy, one of my favourite comedians in Scotland, there's a guy, a good friend, a guy called Mark Nelson. And he was telling me, when I started full time, he said for the first year he really struggled financially, and then he started, kind of paying off. So it's a big risk you've got to take, but you only live once, so you've got to do it.
The thing that was cool about down here is, like, 2 years ago, the possibility of sitting in a room on a stage with Will Anderson and Charlie Clausen and my friend Dave didn't exist. Even just coming down here doing with this Dave, it didn't exist. Like, that just happened. This thing evolved as everyone sort of evolved this art form, which we didn't have a plan.
Yeah, you're not right how you are, you've got to change. And all these messages filter down and filter down and filter down. There's my little girl, nearly 4 years old, standing on the bathroom scales asking me, "Daddy, am I the right kilos?" How do you answer a question like that? What do you say? I have to answer it. I can't just ignore it. I can't just pretend she hasn't asked me that question. I have to answer it. All I can be is honest.
And for me, it's like, do the work, be funny, don't have a plan. Let the universe respond to what you're doing, but don't fucking plan it, because you'll be wrong and you'll be disappointed. And every time I've had a plan, I end up fighting with straw dogs that don't exist about why my plan isn't working out, and then I'm unhappy.
I just have to say, listen, chunky tits, you have beefed up a little bit lately, all right? Now, I didn't want to say anything, but since you've brought it up, what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the ice cream, we're going to run to preschool every day, you'll get skinny again, and then Daddy can love you, okay?
If you're not someone with a massive media profile, it helps to have a gimmick.
Well, in Scotland, one of the biggest names is at the moment is Kevin Bridges. I don't know if you've heard of that guy, but he's pretty big in Scotland. He sells out huge, like 10,000 seaters. I did the circuit with him a few years ago, and now he's had a bit of TV coverage, and now he just sells out these venues like that.
And the Twitter thing, you know, lots of people I know are on Twitter, and you know, I've made friends through tweeting, so I know it's an effective medium.
I caught a taxi a little while back with my girlfriend, and I let her sit in the front of the cab because I didn't want to pay. And everybody does that, yeah? Cruising along, right? And I gave the driver very specific instructions to the party. We're going to a party, friend's party. We go 3 turns from our house, very simple. Cruising along, I'm watching where we're going in the back, and he does this. He goes to my girlfriend, "Hey, what's your name? How about you come over to my place, I cook you dinner, we drink wine, and we see what happens." Like that. And they're actually saying, "Mate, fair dinkum." I tapped him on the shoulder, I was like, "Buddy, hey, you just missed the fucking turn off there. How about a little less chat? A little more focusing on the road, buddy." So I got dropped off at the party, and then the girlfriend started seeing a taxi driver. That's...
In the States, we do a thing called the Starfish Circus, where I actually bring my band out, which is I have a ska surf band called the Reigning Monarchs, and then we bring other friends, and we do like a night, and it's like our own mini Coachella. And everyone comes out, and then afterwards there's a DJ, and it's just a fucking thing.
And I reckon in Scotland there's other guys just as good as him, but people don't know who they are. So it's all about working out how to get to that level.
You don't get to decide what that is. That's the thing. You know, you have to just do the work, and it will become evident. You do looking when He's Just Not That Into You came out, people went, "Man, you figured that shit out." I'm like, "No, I didn't. I got asked a question, and then that question turned into a fucking thing, and then it just happened." I wasn't looking for an angle. I mean, it was not an angle I wanted. By the time we got there, I'm like, I don't want the relationship angle. I don't care about that stuff. I was sincerely helping a friend who was going through a shitty time and trying to boost her self-esteem by saying, "You're better than going out with someone who's shitty." You know, I was being sincere, and then I was like, it would be great to have a book that told people that they didn't have to blame themselves for being in shitty relationships.
Been a bit stressed with this whole lady situation. I went to the doctor recently and just asked what's a good way to relieve stress, and everybody knows a couple of good ways, but he gave me a great way. He said, "Daniel, go outside when it's a nice day and lie under the sun and just look at clouds, make sure there's a few clouds around, just look at clouds and picture that they're different objects, and that's a great way to relieve stress." Great idea, but it didn't really work, because as soon as I laid down, the first cloud I saw actually reminded me of my ex-girlfriend. It was really dark and angry looking, and it was like spitting on me, and when it got right out of sight and I couldn't see it anymore, it was telling other clouds that I had a small penis. Which is just, it's just unfair, isn't it? And then actually a cloud shaped like a taxi driver went past, and she fucked it. She fucked it.
You know, that kind of thing, like it. And so that happened without my trying. Everything that, you know, Dave and I didn't know what we were doing. We started off with 200 listeners. And it just became this thing that evolved, but we just did it every week, and it told us what it was. The clown outfits and all that stuff came afterwards. The thing kept evolving. We put ourselves in our closet at my house because it was the best room to record in, and now that's become the lore of the thing. We literally sit in the closet in my house among our clothes and do the podcast because it buffets the sound.
But I thought I'd give it a try, and it worked. And got me a story in The Age. With the social media reporter did a story on me, so you know, every little bit helps. And yeah, it's a gimmick to build your stand-up around, and it worked. So.
And I think everyone's waiting for those moments, you know, so we're all building towards that. It feels like everything is sort of building and building and building to these things when we all get together and have a gathering. Not unlike the Juggalos, which is not who you want to follow, or the Nazis. So again, bad examples. We're trying to use those powers for good. And then when America is not the most popular place in the world, which we haven't been in the last 10 or so years, people are like, well, fuck yourself. And then you're like, well, I just came here to say hi.
Yeah, but when I started, I had this routine, and it sounded quite misogynistic, even though I'm not a sexist. But at the same time, the wording was all wrong.
Maybe I did a show in London, you know, and like all these industry people came, and I really cared. And the show was horrible because I cared what they thought, you know. And I was making the show to impress them. And I was trying to show them that I was good, and it was the worst show.
You have to think a little bit more about how you say things up there, not because I'm worried about offending or otherwise. You have to be able to keep people on side, otherwise they're not going to laugh at you.
This woman comes up to me once, she goes, very upset, you know, you're ridiculing a very serious subject. You know, I have 3 children and they're all afflicted with ADHD, and it's really tough and you don't understand, and I'm most upset. And I just looked her in the eye and I said, if I had a parent like you, I wouldn't fucking pay attention either. Hey man, you got 1 kid that's got it, that's bad luck. 2, 3, it's fucking you.
A lot of people, and I was the same when I started, you think it's going to happen straight away. Like you start and you smash a couple of gigs and you're like, 5-minute spots, and you're like, all your friends are saying how good you are, and you think this is easy and awesome. And then you just come back to reality after about a year and a half.
When I did Edinburgh, that's the way I felt. I went on the heels of having written this book, and they were like, oh, the movie's out and people want to come see you. No, they won't, and they don't give a shit.
If you're not really saying the things in the right way, then yeah, I feel that they don't buy it, they don't buy your story, they don't believe you, they don't believe you know what you're talking about, and therefore they can't find you funny.
In my act I said, I worked on Sex and the City, and the review was like we don't know what that is. I was like, I didn't say that. Oh, he's so grand. Like I couldn't win for losing. No matter how I said it, I was either being braggadocious or acting like they didn't know, or being condescending, and I'm like, I'm just telling you what happened because I thought I was invited here to do this because my managers were sure that would be what people would want to hear, and they didn't, and it was odd. And I wasn't going to do any more festivals.
Because I hadn't met that little girl before, proceeded to show me about 4 million photos of their beautiful little spawn using her iPhone. She said, look, Xavier, look, here she is happy. And here she is grumpy. And here she is sad. And here she is happy again. And here she is in a dress. And here she is in a different dress. And here she is in a party dress. Isn't she the cutest thing in the world? And here she's holding a book. Oh, maybe she'll be a writer and a comedian, like her Uncle Xavier when she grows up. End up single and broke and alone. So alone. Did you know he's a fully qualified engineer? Yes, he is. And if he'd stuck at it, he'd have more money than everyone here. But he gave it up because he's an idiot. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I guess learning how to be a little bit more open and genuine with my audience than I was at the start, because at the start I was just trying to be this funny guy. Then I stopped trying to be funny and I learned how to be funny.
They say 8 years is the apprenticeship in comedy, so I'm 3.5, nearly 4. Still got heaps to learn.
You know, and I didn't have any fun. It was just bad. And I was just like, what am I doing? Why am I a slave to these people? And my work suffers as a result, you know. So I think the worst times have been when I cared too much. And I've had worse deaths, but I didn't care, and so it was all right, you know.
Room, room. Ring, ring.
I have friends that say, "Oh, I've seen that stuff before," but it's kind of hard to describe. Like if you hear a song if you hear a song 10 times, it'll grow on you eventually. Where a joke, if you hear it once, you laugh the most you're ever going to laugh at it. If you hear it 10 times, you're over.
Oh, because of the internet now, people know your material no matter where you're from. So there were people that were like, "I wish you did the Cadbury egg bit," or "I thought you were going to do the thing about the chain wallet." And I was like, well, it's not a headlining set of just stand-up for some reason. I'm doing a play.
Once you've done a show like 60 times, like over the course of a few festivals, not necessarily in a row, but you can just be like, oh fuck this. Like,
Show fatigue.
Yeah, you fatigue at the same ideas and characters.
I don't think people understand how it's not easy to write like what you'd class as gold. It's hard to find, so you're always going to keep it, and you're always going to use it in a situation where it's a good gig and you want to impress, so you'll bring it out.
Todd Barry, who was here last time I was here, is a great comedian and is very beloved in the alternative comedy world, but he hates it because the alternative comics are always like, I've already heard that one.
Eaten a chili a night for the last 2 months, or fucked a chocolate cake a night for the last year.
Used to fuck a chocolate cake in the last year. Fucked a lot of chocolate cakes.
I didn't write these jokes not to tell them. You only have so many jokes in you. And there's only so many times you're going to be a genius or have some funny thing to say. And sometimes they're great little works of art that you want to keep doing.
Police force, if you want people not to touch your animals when you're sniffing out drugs, use an animal nobody wants to go near, okay? Don't know if you've ever seen a llama up close before, guys. It's a fucking weird animal. The weirdest animal ever invented, the llama. Fucking what a... If you've never seen one close, do it. Do yourself a favour. They're just always freaking out. They're very funny. Use a llama, because fair enough, their sensors aren't as good as a Labrador. But imagine this, right? Guy off his face, Saturday night, just pocket full of drugs, belly full of drugs. He's the big kingpin dealer on the night. Just packed dance floor, sweating his ass off, just having a good time. Boo, 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 boo. Opens his eyes, llama, just standing right there, right in front of him on a lead.
I have no problem doing jokes over again, and I think it still makes people laugh, and I still like telling the story. I want to challenge myself by knowing how to do different things.
But in saying that, it is nice to write new gold. New gold is super gold. Yep.
So yeah, after you fucked about 80 chocolate cakes, you're ready to give it a break. But that said, we are doing that show again in New Zealand later in the year. So we just needed a year off fucking chocolate cakes to get the mojo back.
Because the thing about here, when you're on stage, you can walk around a little bit and not get laughs.
So I found that if people are laughing, they're going to listen, and then if you give them an idea that they might not agree with, like gay marriage or something, but if you can make people laugh about the delivery of it, then they sort of come on side with you a little bit more anyway.
It's a kind of imperfect marriage, I think, the stuff that we do and the comedy festival in particular, because we're on the fringe of comedy, we're also on the fringe of theatre. We're not really in any of those worlds in particular. We sort of sit somewhere on the edge of everything else. So it's kind of like amazing that people will come and, you know, go along with the stuff that we're putting in front of them, because it is quite different from the sort of stuff that you, I think, or the average person in their head thinks of when they think of a comedy festival show.
You can actually do a segment in the middle where you are just explaining some thing that happened to you, and the crowd's like, yeah, no problem. This is like a little play. So the opportunity here to expand your palette and to do something more interesting is definitely available to you.
Like that was the first day after I got nominated or something, and like suddenly it was so important that my show was good and the judges and I start to not enjoy the process of doing the show. I start to want to win an award, you know, or impress judges.
Write as much as you can, whether you think it's crap or good. Just write. Perform all of it on stage in little venues. Find out what's your best, then just work your best up.
And I literally would say to someone, here's a ticket, come down and watch. Go to 20 shows, then think about whether you want to do this again. Because to just come here and not know it, like I did in Edinburgh, I was just embarrassed. And I had terrible sets for 30 days, and I went home wanting to kill myself. I mean, that's a little dramatic. But I didn't feel good about myself there, because I felt like I was having a hard time. I got invited back, too, which they must know that it's hard.
So yeah, I like making people think. And that's what I'm doing now as opposed to before. Like I'm okay now if I tell a joke and nobody laughs but everyone's listening. I'm like, I've actually challenged people and made them think a little bit.
It's so heartwarming to have people come along every night and enjoy it and be really surprised and taken aback and say things like, we've never seen anything like that before, but it was great.
Like I would use this as a way to do something different. You know, the interesting thing was I came down here with my podcast this year, podcasting has become the thing that people do. And people showed up in droves for that because it's new. I mean, we did one with just my buddy Dave, and it sold out. And then we did one with this other podcast called Tofop that is Will Anderson and Charlie Clausen, and that sold out as well. And people were very excited about that. And that doing those live is its own different beast. It's certainly not a play, and it's definitely not stand-up.
It can be a challenge as well, trying to find people, your audience. And I mean, I think a lot of performers who are doing slightly weirder stuff.
So yeah, I think when you're a young comic, you have to use all of the things. And don't let anyone dissuade you from having a podcast because they're trendy. Don't fucking worry about what other people say. There's always gonna be haters. Everybody wants to take something down. Oh, you have a podcast? Yeah, but it's not for anyone but anyone who wants to listen to me talk. And I'll either have 5 fans or I'll have none or I'll have 4 million, who knows.
Because stand-up has got its conventions that are quite clear and people are very familiar with that because it's such a well-known medium. So anything that takes that and subverts it in some way, whether it be people like Sam Simmons who does stand-up but it's quite strange and there's weird stuff going on, and even now he's massive, he still has people sometimes coming to his shows and not knowing what to make of it. So I think it's always going to be a challenge when you start to play with the conventions of that, because there's a lot of people who are like, not sure what to make of it. And
I saw Jennifer Wong and I was like, that girl's awesome. So when we did our show, I was like, go see Jennifer Wong. Like, I like supporting the community, and the next phase of my life can't be about me anymore. I'm really tired of me.
And that's more frustrating than like having a bad show. Even if you have a good show and you're like, dude, I wasn't free. I didn't have fun. It's just more frustrating. It's stupid. It's so stupid that there are fucking judges that come in and judge you, Judge how, I don't know, what are they judging? I don't understand it, but it's too bad, But I guess it just helps people come to your show or something. I don't know, maybe it's alright.
For me, the stand-up life is lonely, and spending a lot of time thinking about what you look like and what you're supposed to be doing and how Greg Behrendt is doing is not healthy, and especially when you have kids. It's like you don't want to be preening in front of the mirror and you know what I mean? Like there's just something about it that lacks dignity, and I'd like to have my kids see me be a part of a community and help other artists and do something, like that.
Beautiful one, come and rest in my arms, beautiful one. Feel the warmth against my chest. Right into the sun it says, beautiful one. I love the way you smile, beautiful one. You give me goosebumps down my neck. I hold on to my every breath. Oh, no, no, no. I wanna hold your hand.